Let's bring you up to speed with the developments in that part of the world. Deji Bademosi is joining us now live from Lagos with more information on this story. So, Deji, let's start with this most recent purchase of 2 million barrels of crude from the Americans. Was that because most or all other domestic supplies had already been committed, had already been taken up by other buyers?
Well, Rama, it's a combination of factors. Of course, that would be one of the reasons because most of, as you know, of course, the sale of oil is governed by forward contracts. So there would have been prior commitments now made by some of these oil companies. So obviously that's part of the reasons. But let's not also forget that another reason could be because of the fact that, U.S. oil is now becoming very competitive in terms of pricing. So, and we're talking about a refinery that can actually process not just, that can actually process various grades of crude, including the U.S. WTI and, of course, the Brent. So Dangote, of course, would be looking at, crudes from anywhere it can lay its hands on. So it's a combination of reasons, but most importantly is the issue of future or forward contracts, if you like, because most of these oil companies would have had prior commitments, of course, and they just have to meet those commitments. And I think it's basically the main reason why Dangote has decided to bring in oil from the United States. But price competitiveness too is very key, and the fact that this refinery can actually process products, I mean crude grades now from the United States, is also a factor as well.
Indeed, let's drill down on that price question, because it's looking at the gap a few minutes ago between where Brent futures are and WTI futures are. There's a gap of around $4, $5 at that point between those two contracts. But given the fact that Nigerian crude is often sold, or rather priced at a discount, right, to Brent, how big really is that price advantage that WTI crude has?
Well, it's a huge advantage because we're talking about huge volumes here. Very, very huge volumes. We're talking about millions of barrels of oil. So it's really a huge advantage. And as I said earlier, the fact that these refineries can actually, this refinery can actually process that grade of crude is also a huge advantage. And so that is really important. But also important, Rama, is the fact that quite a number, as I said, quite a number of the oil companies now operate, including the NNPC, would have been committed to some of these forward contracts, and they just have to meet, they have to honor these contracts now. Don't also forget that, look, besides these 2 million barrels we're talking about, the NNPC before now had actually provided around 6 million barrels to the Dangote refinery. So that's something very huge now coming from the domestic market. But no question at all that, look, the price differential is very huge. It's an advantage for the WTI, especially when you look at the volume of import we're talking about here. And but then it's also a credit to the Dangote refinery that it's able to process, that grade of crude coming from the United States of America.
All right, one last question for you. By some estimates, one of the more recent one I've seen is from S&P, this refinery will be able to ramp up to that 650,000 barrels a day production target, or rather processing target, by the middle of 2025. Are we still on course to hit that specific target by the middle of next year? And when can this refinery now start feeding produce into the domestic market?
Honestly, talking about timelines, Dangote has been very silent about it. And I think the reason is just because you look at the previous timelines the Dangote management gave, they were not able to meet those timelines for one reason or the other. They just were not able to meet. If we were to go by the previous timeline, by now you should expect to see, crude. You should expect to see refined products now from this refinery in the domestic market. But we do not have that. And the Dangote management has not been open about it. I think that they've just been quiet. What we know before now is that by now we should be seeing at least diesel and aviation fuel come into the market, because don't forget, Dangote management says, look, it's going to start with diesel and aviation and gradually move to petrol, and then ramp up. They're looking at 350 barrels per day processing 350 barrels per day now, and then gradually ramp things up to 650,000 barrels per day. But we just have to wait and see. That has to come from the Dangote management. There's a possibility that S&P is very correct, that we may have to wait until the middle of 2025. We just do not know. But what we do, we had all expected that by now we should see these products now hit the domestic market. But so far, well, nothing has come out of it. But I think possibly maybe before the middle of the year, or in just a couple of months, we'll see, or a couple of weeks, we'll see things happen, but not until Dangote says so. It's very, very difficult to hazard a guess at this time. And
right.
The management has not said anything. And I think, as I said, the reason could be because they were not able to meet up with the previous timelines they gave. And so they've just decided to remain quiet until it actually happens.